Nothing makes fucking sense. Life makes no sense. You're on a planet right now. You think you're in America? Zoom out.
Welcome to Something Crunchy, the Valley's #1 comedy entertainment podcast. Biscuit is homies with Blake. Blake is the older brother of Blair, and Blair is married to Biscuit. Here are your hosts, Colin Blake with Blair and Tyler Dressel.
All right. Welcome to Something Crunchy. I'm Colin Blake. With me, as always, Blair and Tyler Dressel. Thank you for joining us for part 2 of our annual Merry Crunchmas special. We have such a crunchy guest joining us. He's an actor, producer, podcaster, and stand-up comedian with a brand new Netflix special out called I Am Not For Everyone. You know him from HBO's Crashing and his new web series, Batcanned. He's the host of the You Made It Weird podcast, and he'll be back in the Valley at Tempe Improv on his Feelin It tour, December 30th and 31st. Please welcome Pete Holmes.
What a great intro. That's something I don't do on my podcast, and I feel like the guests always hate that. I can see why. It makes me feel welcomed and that you did some research, and I appreciate it.
Oh, thank you for joining us, Pete. Appreciate you being here for the second leg of our Be Holmes for Crunchmas holiday spectacular. What's new in your world?
Well, I recently stole the idea to do a special called I'll Be Holmes for Christmas.
Such a good idea, Pete.
I'm not just saying this like a guy who would steal your idea. That's occurred to me before, and as a great title. And I've always wanted to do. Stephen Colbert did my favorite comedy Christmas special. I don't know if you've seen it, but it's fantastic. And I've always wanted to do some version of like a, crackling fire and stockings.
Oh,
and
be
trees.
so
You
good.
need to.
Yes.
We need it.
Yeah, Colbert's is from like at least 15 years ago.
I was going to say, if it's
time
the one
for
I'm thinking
a
of,
remake.
it was like, 15, 20 years ago.
No,
about.
it's time.
Yeah. But it's same drop. But I've mentioned it to him how much I like it, and he's very proud of it, and he should be. They wrote all the new songs. Here I'm plugging something I didn't do, but this holiday season, check out Colbert Christmas.
Colbert Christmas.
Yeah.
You're on your Feelin It tour. How's it going? Are you feeling it?
I am feeling it. I am touring just exactly how I like to tour, which is just about once a month. Because I don't know. I look at my fellow comrades in comedy, and so many of them sort of have the more is more approach. My jokes, for me, like people notice that I laugh at my own jokes a lot, and honestly, it's an honest reaction, and it's because I don't overperform. That's kind of a tricky thing to say. You can't really do that when you're starting. But now that I've been doing it for over 20 years, I like to want to do the show. And the best way to do that is to not do too many shows. So when I'm in Tempe or wherever I'm going next, after that, I'll actually be feeling it. So that's
actually be feeling it.
Appropriate, as opposed to pretending to feel it, which there's nothing worse than watching a comedian pretending to enjoy their job. I actually will be enjoying it because I keep it special.
See, and that's spoken like a true veteran, and you can tell when it comes off canned. Tempe's going to be looking forward to have you New Year's Eve in the Valley, December 30th and 31st at Tempe Improv. Tickets available at PeteHolmes.com. It's going to be a party, and Something Crunchy will be there to bring in the new year with Pete.
Oh, I was so excited.
Yeah, we'll be there the 31st, staying late for the Pete and greet.
Great.
Champagne and shrooms on us.
Oh, yeah.
Well, you're California sober right now, all organic, only fungus and cannabinoids. Is that right?
I am California sober. Which is a lazy way or a quick way, I guess, to say that I just don't drink anymore.
Right.
It's very funny to tell people that you don't drink, but you're like, but I still take psychedelic drugs.
I still like to travel,
Natural.
I'll pass on the wine, but I don't do psychedelics that often, but they have been very meaningful to me in my life. And so, yes, and I'll occasionally smoke weed. I'll probably, maybe after the show, smoke some weed with you guys.
Right on. Yeah,
We're
perfect.
here for it.
And we just had Ari on. He mentioned that you had your first bad trip. We were sorry to hear that. Most people don't go to Tucson, but you played there anyway. I'm just kidding. You wouldn't go to Tucson.
No.
Ari Shafir, did he really mention that I had a bad
He
trip?
sure did. Yeah, I did.
I must have told him that story. I've only had one really classically bad mushroom experience. And what really stood out to me, because whenever I'm, sitting here clear and comfortable, like I am speaking with you today, I'm always like, why don't you just like surrender to it? Like just enjoy it. Like it's weird, it'll be over. Just kind of embrace it. But that's the hardest thing in the world to do.
Yep.
It was such a cliche. The walls started like bleeding and nothing was standing still. And I was like, I hate this so much. And
Trapped in it.
yeah, I felt so trapped. But then it turned for me when I did manage to go like, it's a big key to my life is when I'm experiencing anything that I don't like, I just say, yes, thank you. Even if I don't mean it. In fact, I never mean it. I wouldn't have to say it if I meant it. Like, you don't have to say, yes, thank you at an orgy. You say, yes, thank you.
You might.
When, you could. Orgies can get weird. But, I was just flying today, which is why I'm in the car. And, there's always, it's just a cavalcade of inconveniences and sore legs and all these things. So I catch myself in those moments having to say, yes, thank you. And it also works. Your brain just has no idea what to do with like enthusiastic acceptance of whatever your circumstances are. And the irony is that's how you get rid of the suffering. I know this sounds kind of strange, but like when your flight is canceled, if you say, yes, thank you, it's just, I think I have to think just neurologically, like spirituality aside, just neurologically, your brain is like, what? And then you just kind of sink into what's happening and can find a way to enjoy it.
No, that's just coding your brain for a better perspective.
Mindset
and that totally works.
everything.
Yeah, absolutely.
It really works. Yeah. Thank you for letting me get that out. Just because if I could give everybody one tip, it's yes, thank you. It's been a game changer for my life.
Such a great tip.
In the military, we called that enjoy the suck.
Enjoy
the suck. I love that. And there's a new one that I just found. It comes from Buddhism, which is enjoy yourself even when you're not. And I was
Nice.
I was just not enjoying it. I had to take 2 flights. I'm a big, tall, heavy guy, and my butt is sore. I had to get up at 4 a.m. And I kept saying, like, enjoy yourself even when you're not. Which is, I don't even have to unpack that. It's so good. But it's like your circumstances might not be what you want, but you can find a part of yourself that is sort of, quietly and unobjectively observing it. And if you shift into that perspective, like enjoying the suck, that's like find the part of you that's watching your life like it's a movie, connects to that thing.
That's it.
Yeah.
Be positive.
That's it, baby.
Well put, Pete.
Yeah.
Have you experimented with any other psychedelics?
Other than mushrooms? Oh, sure, yeah.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Oh, sure.
We surveyed a small focus group, and our study determined that you would be the most entertaining comedian to watch on ayahuasca for 24 hours. Like if you live stream the whole thing on Patreon.
I feel like that's a guaranteed way to get paranoid. If you were just like, I'm having my brothers and sisters on this planet pay to watch me uncover my own shit. That seems like absolute nightmare.
Watching
That's
your
nightmare fuel.
personal experience. Oh my
Living
God.
your own Truman Show. That would just be a rabbit hole in a rabbit hole.
Well, sometimes when I'm on something, not ayahuasca, I've never done ayahuasca, but if I'm on a psychedelic, and it can go one of 2 ways. One, I'll think about how I have a podcast, and there's literally thousands of hours of me sharing every weird family story and every embarrassment and humiliation and all this oversharing, right? And sometimes when I'm on psychedelics, I'm like, that is the most beautiful thing a person could do. You know what I mean? You're like overwhelmed. Sure. You're like, oh my God, instead of being ashamed or afraid, you're even in the silliest poop my pants story, you're kind of modeling this behavior of like, it's okay. It's okay. Your life is okay. You're okay. We don't have to be ashamed or guilty. And that can be really beautiful. But sometimes mostly when I'm stoned, sometimes I'll think like, just don't think about how much content you have out there. Not because of anything you said or like you might get canceled. It's not even that. It's just like, what am I doing? Like, why am I telling so many people, so many intimate details of my life. But for the most part, it's a very positive feeling, because I do think artists are not, we're all here to sort of help each other feel less alone and less afraid.
Yeah, it's like
and
connection.
I think, right? Yes, that's exactly right. And psychedelics are that, even neurologically, just like this hyper connective experience. And then you go like, oh, that, I'm thinking of a specific MDMA trip I had where I was like, and MDMA is wonderful for that, self-acceptance. And
Yeah, it really
self-love.
is.
Yes.
And I just was like, it was almost visual, where I felt like there were all these dry leaves on the ground, and and it was covering me. And I swept them away, and the streets were paved with gold. That doesn't mean Pete is gold. It just means like we're all gold. We're all
right.
I sometimes trip out on that. It's like you could take the worst person in the world, and if you gave them like 7 days on the beach, swimming, eating well, getting sunlight, resting, massaging, nourishing them psychologically, certainly I know there are extreme cases of mental illness, so there might need to be more. But if you get someone down to their base, everybody at their zero, before you add anything, is Enya. We all sound like Sail Away. No one at their base, no one at their most naked sounds like Slayer. That's not to say Slayer is wrong. I actually love aggressive music at times, but it's just like, isn't it beautiful that you can calm anybody down? And if you uncover their essence, and usually that's just giving a person everything they need psychologically, physically, emotionally. If you settle them down, the most crazy person in the world is playing, Yanni. They don't. No one sounds like speed metal at their. Think about like deep sleep is a good example. Like even like the most unhinged person, in your deepest sleep state, you're still Enya. You're still this beautiful, spacious, empty, luminous, infinite light. And I try to keep that in mind, especially when I'm dealing with very difficult people, because
you have to.
But a lot of we're all conditioned to become another sound, and we all have to be another sound. But deep down, we're all Enya. That's something helpful to keep in mind.
Love that.
Oh, that
that's
is
awesome.
good to remember.
Have you had any like spiritual experiences through meditation and without any other substances involved?
Yeah. That's a great question. I think substances really blow the door off the hinges, and that's great. And then I think it's not a prolongable strategy, though, meaning it shows you the potential that we all have. And then the most consistent sort of heart opening unity consciousness stuff, it's not so much meditation for me anymore. I really love breath work, which I know is sort of a cliche at this point. I sound like a NPC in a Grand Theft Auto game.
There's no other words to describe it. I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You run by me, and I'm just some guy with a ponytail that goes like, "I've been getting really into breath work," and then you hit me with your car, and it feels so good to hit me with your car. I hit those people with my car in Grand Theft Auto as well. But cliche aside, like, again, for me, it's contemplation, contemplation is really just a waking meditation. It's where it's not contemplating something. Sometimes you can hold an idea in your head, but it's really just trying to say yes to everything that's happening, yes to a rock or a tree, and dropping the label rock or tree and just experiencing it, merging with it. But breath work is really, really powerful to get you into that. So the answer is yes.
Yeah, nice.
They're not always as visual, or as like, wild. But usually when I'm in the middle of like a ketamine trip or something, I'm like, oh, this is familiar. This is that place that I can get to through breath or through reading or quiet or surrender. A familiar place. That's why so many people take psychedelics and they're like, oh, it was like going home. And it's like, well, what does that tell you?
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Good point.
It was so familiar in the same way that a dream can feel so familiar. You're just like, oh, I didn't go anywhere. In fact, just to answer your earlier question, when I did 5-MeO DMT, and that was a real experience. It was sort of like a death rehearsal. And the experience was like, you don't go anywhere. You're already there. You're already the only place there is, which is here, and you're only the only time there is, which is now. So it's a shedding of everything that isn't infinite or eternal or spacious or free. So, but it was the removal of it's kind of like cleaning up the signal to the antenna, or letting the sediment settle in a lake. It just kind of like falls to the ground, and then it's a clear lake. But you go like, oh my God, wherever we will ever go, if that's the sentence, we're already here now. You know what I'm saying? Like the content and the colors or the visuals, those all change, but you're already there, is what I'm saying. That's the biggest takeaway.
Speaking my language.
Anywhere.
Those are great analogies as well too.
I can tell you get it. Isn't that crazy? Like you've never gone anywhere in your life. Have you ever been really stoned and gotten the feeling? I have many times, where you're like walking and you're like, I really feel like my feet are moving. Let's say you're walking towards a building and you feel like your feet are moving the building, like on a treadmill towards you. Like you're not going towards the building. It's almost like the building is coming to you. Well, that's it. There's sort of a wisdom to that, is you're like, you are an unmoving, spacious field. And everything, when Deepak Chopra did my podcast, he said, you are the still point of the moment, like a frame in a movie projector. Everything plays through that frame, but you've always and only ever been in the same place. And when you really trip out on that, you're kind of like, all of time is happening simultaneously. Your whole life is happening simultaneously. And you can just kind of drop in and appreciate it, not just as a thought experiment, but it makes this conversation I'm having with you all the more vivid, because it's the only thing that's happening. It's absolutely the only thing that's happening.
Truckers would know that as road hypnosis. When the road stops, like you start going down the road and the road stops coming towards you. Yeah, that's
a transcendent experience for real. I really love watching YouTube videos about speed running, like people that speed run old Nintendo games and stuff. They get so into it, and you could kind of look down your nose at that and be like, what a waste of time. This guy played Mike Tyson's Punch-Out 10,000 times. I'm like, no, look at how creative the divine, for lack of a better term, the divine is seeking us out everywhere. And that flow state that you get into while you're long haul trucking or knitting or swimming, hiking, rock climbing, certainly if your life is on the line, those things bring you into that same here and nowness that is our true nature, that we're really, homesick for. And isn't it just such a gracious gift that comedy can be that? Like when I'm on stage and I'm in a flow, a short order cook knows that flow state. Psychology knows that. They called it the flow state. I would say it's to use another Buddhist term, no self, no problem. All of your problems come from your identification with yourself as a separated individual who has bills and relational problems, circumstantial problems, maybe health problems. And when you're in that flow state, all of that is not essential to you goes to the side. It might be flipping burgers or playing Castlevania. It doesn't matter.
Professional sports.
It could be, absolutely. And not only professional sports, but when we're watching an athlete, we're taken with them. When you watch Michael Jordan, he takes you with him to a selfless place. When you're holding your breath and it's the fourth quarter, you're also not there. Meaning you are there, but you're there as that naked awareness. And when you're in that naked awareness, you have no problems. This is why we're obsessed. This is why we're obsessed with anything and everything that we're obsessed with, because it doesn't have to be a rosary or a meditation or a monastery. All of these things are it could be gardening, are bringing you back to a naked state, which is just, I'm going to say that's the only happiness there is. And it's not even actually married to the event that occasions it. It's who you are all the time. It's just there's so much clutter getting in the way. So those activities help us uncover our true nature.
This is how you get Holmes for Crunchmas, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, there you go.
These are the thoughts to bring into the new year.
That's right.
Just needed
Come
all of
now,
this
come
right now.
see me do diarrhea and good jokes at the Tempe Improv. I'll be talking about big gases. But you know what's funny is I actually think, you know, obviously I love that you guys like talking about this stuff. It's my number one interest if we had to rank it. But comedy,
We could talk about this forever.
Right? Hey, me too. And then my comedy isn't an hour of this, but like just in the same way that speed running Mario Brothers gets you into
But that's why the
flow,
podcast is important. You have, there's your identity from being on screen and being on stage, and then there's the humanizing aspect, and then the real you that comes through on your podcast. And when you've done it over a decade, like you have, you're going to have a lot of that content out there. It's awesome. Right. You could reflect on all of that.
Yeah.
Even doing stupid jokes, like I love stupid jokes. the audience, it's sort of a by any means necessary thing. Meaning, life is so confusing. We're in outer space. We're in these temporary, meat suits, and it's crazy. And we're not talking about it. But like doing a joke about Q-tips, I have a joke about Q-tips that I like a lot right now. It doesn't matter when you're laughing. It can be about something trivial, but that is also, when I say holy, I mean whole. It merges the audience. It merges me with the audience. It merges us with our experience. So I don't think comedy has to be overtly spiritual to be sort of a beautiful and important release in the same way that everything we were just saying is a beautiful and important release.
Totally agree.
Yeah. It's relatable for everybody, and then you can get your, real message across that everybody can help themselves.
That's right. Well, honestly, if you start, and I do sometimes talk about spirituality, but it's hard to keep people in a spacious place and bring up something as divisive as your thoughts on God or whatever. Mm-hmm. So you start talking about it, you can actually kind of lose them because they'll start going like, well, that's Calvinism or that's Buddhism, and I'm not Buddha, or I'm this. So you might actually lose them when all you're trying to do is keep them.
Right.
So Q-tip jokes might do a better job delivering people to a selfless place than actually overtly being like I'm always trying to write new God jokes, and it's tricky because if you step on a landmine, it's not that I don't want to offend or disagree with somebody, but I just want to write jokes that everybody can come with. If you're an atheist,
for sure, yeah. Well, that's territories where you start unchecking boxes, and no one wants to do that on stage. You want to, everyone can relate to a Q-tip joke.
That connects everybody.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And we need it. You know what I mean? We need comedy is so beautiful.
It really is.
Yes.
The times that I've been going through a breakup or, financial insecurity or health insecurity or whatever it is, I can lose touch with that because I do so much comedy. But like when I need it and then someone gives it to me. Yeah. I'm like, oh, I was like sleeping for 36 hours. Like you feel so good afterwards.
Yes.
Yeah, and you haven't had to deal with breakups or any of that in a while. You and Val, do you do it big for the holidays?
Well, part of the reason I'm in a particularly good mood as I'm talking to you is I'm on my way back to see my wife and daughter. I've been gone. I've been in Winnipeg for I don't even know. Talk about time not existing. One of my strategies with long film shoots is you just take it one moment at a time. But
right.
It's been a while. Maybe I don't know. I'd guess I haven't seen them in maybe 8 or 9 days, something like that. So I'm going home, and it's one of the greatest. There are these different altitudes we can fly at, right? And I think it's important to fly at all of them. One of them, and we sort of started there, is like, well, what's it all about? Like, okay, it's all one, and you're made of spacious awareness or whatever you want to say. But then there's also just like the circumstances of your life, and that's important too. Your mental health, your physical health, your emotional health. And one of the happiest things in the world is I'm going to walk in the door. I get my daughter a little gift, and I put it up my shirt, And I always tell her I forgot to get her something, and then she jumps on me and pats me down looking for it. And I think if you could put me in a CAT scan in that moment, my oxytocin would be like near heroin levels. It's just one of the happiest things.
Yeah,
that's great.
Isn't it great? And it's another thing too. The being away informs the being there. It's like it's better. We want to do the things that make us feel good and then just do them all the time. But isn't it a strange clue of the universe that it doesn't work to just hit the big red button? Like, even just the way our brains work, if cake makes you feel good, isn't it weird that eating a whole cake doesn't make you feel good? But there's like a clue to the whole thing in that. Val and I always say heroin doesn't work. Isn't that crazy? Like, morphine doesn't work. Like, it will ultimately kill you or drain you or you'll just need more and more. We all know that. But like, it's a wave. Everything's supposed to be a wave. I can't just constantly be with my wife and daughter. In fact, they know this. We don't even always want to constantly be together. You need it to be up and down and up and down. And I try to be at home as much as I can, and I'm not even gone that often. But when I am gone, it's better. I come home with this like fervor, and we're back to my stand-up. That's why, stand-up is a little bit like a drug. Sometimes when I get off stage, I have to tell myself, don't talk, because I feel so flooded with feel-good chemicals, hormones, that I'm like, I've never done cocaine, but I'm like, I feel like I'm coked up right now. And if you talk to me, I'll tell you something insane, or I'll tell you I'll write a movie about your life. I'll promise that we'll take a road trip. I'll tell a random fan that we need to go to lunch the next day, because I'm just
high on life right now. I'm not trying to be committed to anything.
That's been a hard learned lesson, is like, if you feel like the 4th of July inside, just keep your mouth shut, because that's kind of an abuse. Don't impose your good feeling on your ordinary tomorrow. You know what I mean? Just kind of keep your mouth shut and just say thank you. I'm glad you were here.
No, that's perfect.
Right?
So you were vegan, you're not anymore, but you were with exceptions. When did you come back to the dark side, and what was the dish that broke you?
I love this question because I'm still processing it, to be honest. It's not something I have complete clarity on. I'll say that it started because we had a baby, and we started giving our baby formula just to kind of, supplement the breastfeeding. And there I was sort of, that was sort of the first sort of crack, was I was like, here I am, so grateful that you can get formula, and formula is obviously made from cow's milk. And I was like, okay, here we are already. We weren't going to make our daughter a vegan, and she's not, but I was like, okay, here she's doing that. And then, that goes into endless, you know what it is? It's like, sometimes a pizza is just a pizza, like Freud. Sometimes a pizza is like factory farming and all these nightmares, environmental nightmares, animal rights nightmares, and I concede that. That's all valid. And then sometimes I'm just riding my bike to a pizza place with my daughter, and we get a pizza, and it sort of transcends the horror. You know what I'm saying? Like,
balance.
I don't know.
All of it.
Yeah, balance. I don't know what to say other than it's just sort of like it's what's happening. I can't say I feel great.
No, that makes sense.
All of it.
Well, you shouldn't feel guilty about any of it.
No.
Well, I'll say one of the great things, being an ex-vegan sort of stinks, because you did all the, once you stop eating animal products, you're sort of emboldened to do all the research as to why you shouldn't eat animal products. And now I eat animal products again, and that sucks. Because like I can't.
Now I know.
Can't go back.
I can't unsee it. I can't unlearn it.
It was better. Yeah, the best version was me before all of that. But I think veganism is a great and compassionate.
Did you get any
choice.
special powers while you were vegan? Were you able to like?
That's
What, you could hear sharper, or like, what do you?
No, like, spiritually, was it easier to connect to the source at the time? Like, I found that was, it was easier for me to connect when I was hungry. So I imagine veganism could kind of go down the same
See
line.
vegans
To
as
do
being
with it.
hungry. Yeah.
Like just never
That's
totally
interesting.
satisfied.
Well, okay, a couple things about that. One thing that I like about eating animal stuff now is that I eat fewer things. When I was vegan, I was eating thousands of things. You know what I
Exactly.
mean? And a lot of, I'm not even putting it down. I think it's a miracle that we have things like Impossible burgers and all that. And I'll still eat one of those from time to time because I don't really eat a lot of red meat. But I'm going to quote Jesus here. Weird. It's weird being raised Christian. I still enjoy some of the JC stuff. He says
He's got some
Classic
hot
JC.
quotes.
he's got a lot of he's got a lot of memes, that guy. But he says, it's not what goes into your mouth that makes you clean or unclean. Of course, he's talking to a Jewish audience at that
Right.
point, and there was such an obsession with purity. And I even notice a psychological correlation to feeling like unclean, or like you've inherited the worst parts of your parents, or anger or rage. And I think one of the reasons why on the West Coast, where there's so much, self-improvement and psychology and therapy and all that stuff, although that's, it's spreading everywhere. That's why there's so many juice fasts. You do all that work to uncover the horrors of your childhood or whatever it might be. You start to feel broken, and you're like, well, I'll fix this with my diet. I think there's a reason, of course there's a reason why all that language on organic and vegan food is like clean and pure, and you know what I mean? I might as well just say fixed or unbroken,
Right.
or
Yeah.
complete. The complete tofu. I mean, I would believe a tofu brand called Complete. No one would look twice, or anything like that. So you sort of have to reconcile and make peace with the grittiness, not just externally but internally, and your attitude towards it externally can sort of mirror how it is internally. The one thing I can say with certitude is that now that I eat chicken and some dairy, that sort of stuff, and fish, I do catch myself, and this is just me, I can't say it's every vegan, but I don't judge people, on set and everybody's eating, pork face or whatever. And I enjoy not looking down on that. And that was more of my issue. I can't say that was other people's issue. That's a superpower to not being vegan anymore. But I'm sort of shocked that the difference in how I feel is people that eat meat are like, it's a huge game changer. I looked on ex-vegan Reddits and stuff, and they're like, oh, it helped with my anxiety, and I'm grounded, and I'm earthed, and I'm satiated, and all this stuff. I haven't noticed a huge difference. The only diet that I did that really, really, really gets you high is raw vegan. That's insane. If you
That's
eat
too
raw
much.
vegan,
Yeah.
yeah, but it's
It's a
also insane in what
commitment.
it'll do. It will get you like high. Like I don't do it anymore, but the times when I would go months being raw vegan, I was like, my skin could have powered Nevada.
Really?
My eyes were like so white, and everything just felt so alive. So I'll jump to a conclusion that I haven't shared. I've been interested to share this. There's two diets that have been proven, and this isn't woo-woo. You can look it up. Unfortunately, you have to look it up on YouTube, but there's documentaries on YouTube about reversing type 2 diabetes and sometimes type 1 diabetes. One is raw veganism. So they got like 15 people with type 2 diabetes. They put them on raw vegan for 30 days, and I think it's something like 90% of them
Wow.
reversed
Wow.
Yeah.
it, which is crazy, which is insane. But the other one, and this is a sticky pickle for my vegan brothers and sisters, is the other one is the carnivore diet. Okay, so the carnivore diet reverses diabetes, raw veganism reverses diabetes. So I'm over here going, ethics aside, because that's where I'm still not quite clear. But ethics aside, it seems to me that processed foods and sugar are really fucking us up.
Yeah.
For sure.
So if you eat a lot of raw vegan vegetables and that sort of, and living food, and it seems to me, and you eat meat on its own, like clean, or there's no clean, you know what I mean, like not deep fried meat. I think I'm wondering, I'm like, where's the expert that would say that? It's all these extremes. It's
always the extremes and never just about the
Yeah.
balance.
Yeah, I'm waiting for the person, Whole30 is sort of that way. It's like eat lean meat and vegetables. But I haven't heard too many people not walking that middle way and being like, well, it really seems to be like eating Doritos and ice cream. And
Right.
all
I
this
did
stuff.
like the keto diet because I felt like that was like the only diet I ever had because I had gestational diabetes when I was pregnant. So I had to do where it was basically just like all balance, where it's like, I like that,
Mostly protein. If
Yeah.
you had
cut out the carbs and sugar.
if you had carbs and sugar, you had to eat way more protein.
Hype up the protein.
Yeah.
And that was it. So it was like, again, that healthy
Oh, wow.
balance.
Yeah, we're going into the holidays, and my mother-in-law makes these cookies that are a Ritz peanut butter sandwich, and she covers it in chocolate. And
Oh,
I can't, you guys. Even
Wait,
as I'm
wait.
talking
Hold
to you
on.
now.
A Ritz cheese cracker covered in chocolate.
It's Ritz, 2 Ritz with peanut butter in the middle.
Oh, it's
And-
peanut
Oh,
butter.
Ritz peanut butter sandwiches covered in.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
And going back to my drinking, I have a really hard time not eating 30 of those. Meaning, I think those are related. The only reason I hesitate to call myself an addict is because I don't want to think the recovery people that I'm co-opting them, because I'm not in any program. But I feel like a self-diagnosed addict. And when she brings those cookies out, I'm like, God damn it.
Get out of my
Bring out
way.
the cookie.
Here's the test
Because I
for you.
know that's it. Yeah.
Here's the test for you, Pete. If you grab one of those cookies and you medicate it with 100 milligrams of THC, could you
Yeah.
still pound a whole bag of them? Could you stop yourself knowing that you were just putting in 100 milligrams per cookie?
Every bite.
That's brilliant. Because I would not. I'm a lightweight. If I eat
You're
10
welcome.
milligrams, I'm, and then it'll be fun to watch what happens to everyone else.
Yeah.
That's the real treat.
No, just to bore you with one thing that's made my life a lot better is I'm actually fasting today. So 2 days a week I fast.
So you're hungry today.
I'm actually, so this is one of the dopest things about it. I've been doing it for months. First of all, I lost like 35 pounds in 7 weeks, not doing anything except 2 days a week. So usually Monday and Thursday. So this week is Monday and Friday. You eat a quarter of your calories. So you can figure out what your calorie intake should be based on your height and your weight. Mine's about 800 calories is a quarter of my calories. I do 600. And if anyone out there, I'm only saying this, I'm not saying this to be a Hollywood douche. I'm saying this because as someone who, like, so much of my life, I was like, what the fuck do I do? If you just want to get some of this weight off, it's so hard on your knees, it's all this stuff. That's been the most sustainable. And honestly, after you get past the first 2 weeks, it really becomes effortless. And I'm not just saying that because going into that addict mind, addicts do really well with black and white. If you tell me you can eat these cookies, I'll eat 30 of those cookies. But I'm going home today. It's a fast day, so it's just like a switch. It's just binary. It's flipped off. I will eat none of those cookies, and I know that because I've gone this whole day without eating. I had a little protein bar and some nuts, so that's 300 calories. So, but I know I'm not gonna like waste all of that restraint by eating the cookies, and I need that high wire act to do anything. So anyway, that's my 30-second spiel, only because I'm like, I know there's people out there that are just like, there's gotta be, so many people do like the intermittent fasting and stuff. I'm like, get that out of here. Just do it 2 days a week.
2 day a week.
It's so much easier. You wouldn't think it, but it's way easier. And then the morning you wake up after a fast day and you're just like, Oh my God, it's an eating day. It's one of the best feelings in the world. You're just like
Feeding
yeah,
time.
well, you have the awareness and the balance, and you're executing it, and it looks like it's working well for you. You're in superhero shape. I want to talk about Bat Canned. These are hilarious.
Yes, they are.
Where did this idea come from? Where do you find a 6'6" film quality Batman suit? Clearly custom made.
That's great questions. We've been doing them for over 10 years. And it was just
So good.
Believe it or not, I appreciate that. There was so the first one we did was called Batman Vanishes. I was working with Oren Brimmer. I still work with Oren. He's one of my best friends, and he's an incredible director. So he had the directorial vision of making them funnier by making these videos look exactly like the Nolan movies, or as close as we could. So the first ones were with College Humor. They got the bat suit. You'll see the bat suit gets better as we go. Now it finally actually fits me. Some of them are. I'm thinking of the Riddler one. It's the suit isn't very good. I'm also quite a bit heavier, so it was just tight for a lot of reasons. But now we have a nice one. We just did this new series called Bat Canned, which was the first ones that we self-produced, which means it's usually someone else finances it, and then they air them on their channel or whatever. And we were like, sort of as an experiment, we were like, what if we try to do these on our own and just upload them to my YouTube, which is just Pete Holmes. And I'm very happy to say it worked. The audience is still there. We hadn't done one in, I think, 5 years, maybe more. And it's so fun. So we did Batman Fires the Justice League. So he fires Aquaman and Superman and Cyborg and Wonder Woman. And then there's some outliers where I fire the Batman, even though I liked the Batman a lot, but we still make fun of the Batman. And then I fired Joker as well, which was extra fun for me because I really hate the Joker movie. I just think it sucks.
Yeah, it wasn't my favorite.
The Joker's supposed to be a mystery because he's a symbol for chaos. And if you look at like all the great, and I don't mean to be too lofty here, but look at the great myths of humanity. In Native American cultures, there's like the coyote, which symbolizes just random, absolutely reasonless chaos. So we've always needed a symbol of someone, like in Dark Knight, nothing in his pockets but knives and lint. Like that's all he is. He just eats and breathes chaos. He lights piles of money on fire. He just wants to disrupt. And that's sort of what we're stuck in. Not to be too spiritual, but once you split into two, you have up and down, you have good and bad, you have reasonable, you have unreasonable. Look to the world for many examples of that. But human beings need these symbols to make sense of it and to kind of, feel some solidarity. Like, look at how crazy the world is. Look at how insane it can be. So when you just make him like an incel, basically, just like a disturbed, and I don't know, we don't have to get into that too much, but I'm like, we don't need the origin story of chaos.
Right.
He's supposed to be a
symbol.
mystery. Yeah. Batman can have a symbol because we're Batman. And then this movie is like, no, you're Joker. And I'm like, fucks, we don't need help being Joker. We need help being Batman.
Yeah.
We all have both. We all have both in us. And we all know the origin story of our Joker. We need to be inspired with the origin story of our Batman.
Yeah.
That's the guy who he wants to kill and he won't. That's incredible. Not just a guy that incites riots. Look, if you want to watch like a good Joker movie, and it has Joaquin Phoenix, because I have no issue with Joaquin Phoenix. It's like, watch The Master. Watch Paul Thomas Anderson's The Master. Watch There Will Be Blood. There's a lot of movies that are about anti-heroes, but it illustrates the cost of it, not just this like, the world sucks, you're a troll, so go fucking attack someone on a subway. I'm like, we don't need to shine a light on that. You can read the news.
Yeah.
Like,
That's so true. And like, what's the
who
payoff?
was this movie? Who was that for?
That
Who was
inspires
that
the
for?
negative. We don't need that. Like
Yeah.
that's a byproduct of like the inspiration of the positive.
I'm not like everything needs to be a Disney movie, but when you look at these character studies of like take There Will Be Blood, he does murder, he does steal, he's a horrible human being, and he ends up alone in a mansion with a dead priest at his feet, and he's not happy. He loses his son. Like, that is a myth. That's a story that says, sure, you can lean towards your darker impulses, but look at the cost. And you don't have to, it doesn't have to be a morality play, but it should be honest. You're not supposed to be like, I'll do this, and everyone comes to Times Square with a clown mask and worships me, and now I'm the Joker. Get the fuck out of here. The only Joker that makes sense is getting punched in the fucking face by Batman. Because that's what we're all, every morning you wake up and both voices are in you. Both voices are in you. And I think if you're gonna look at the shadow, look at it, but you better be honest, because it's not glory. I can be evil. I'm not saying I act evil. I'm just saying I have the option to be evil. And when you are dishonest, or when you steal, or you cheat, or you cut the line, yeah, okay, you get on the plane faster, but it accumulates like tar in your lungs. And if you don't show that, I mean, I don't know. We don't need help looking at that. So I love doing that video more than any of the others, because it's just like, that one is straight from my heart. We didn't need a script on that one. It's
no,
like,
that's good. One. You were really feeling
like,
it.
Put the Joker in front of me and just let me tell him how much he sucks. As opposed to Heath Ledger's Joker, where at least there's so much more to that. It was more like No Country for Old Men. And that's a symbol. I don't want to see the origin story of Anton Chigurh. I don't need to know that, because he's a symbol of chaos and death. We don't, I've made my point.
Well, hold on. I need to finish my little shot of Magic Mind here. Pete, you ever heard of this stuff?
You know I have.
I
baby.
know you have.
I'm a big believer. I give it to all the guests that do the pod. And
Works.
I just had one. It's truly wonderful.
It made my brain and my mouth match up on like the speed that I had going on. Like,
perfect.
When my brain is over firing with some funny stuff, a lot of the times my mouth can't keep up with it, and half of the funny comes out, but I was able to get a lot of the jokes out that I was thinking on the fly.
It was a great episode.
Yeah.
Pistons are firing.
Totally.
That's a perfect way to put it. When we did the Batcan series, it's funny to think on the ground next to Batman is my script, and then just like several empty bottles of Magic Mind. And that's not just that's not an empty plug. Like, before I'm all about these little life hacks, and Alpha Brain, which is another nootropic, but it's a different formula from Magic Mind. To me, the difference between like the funniest people I know, and a lot of them aren't comedians, but I kind of don't even really care that they're hilarious, because the job is, meaning I care, but I have more respect for the comedian who might not be 24/7 hilarious, but you make it your job to be funny at 8:00 on Friday, which is so much more difficult than just kind of being funny on a road trip with your friends when you're comfortable. So like these little life hacks like Magic Mind are so wonderful to kind of like tell your brain, now's the time, or throw it into gear. We got a show to do.
So you're full of these great bits of advice and life hacks and finding the balance in both the physical and the spiritual nature. And
I appreciate that, man.
And you're 6'6". Do I have that right?
Yeah, I'm 6'5.5", but we bump it up to
6'5.5". Yeah, see, I am too. You're in good company. I'm the exact same height. Tyler here's 6'7".
Oh wow! Like, are you a 14 foot, or are you?
See, that's the weird thing. I'm a 14 foot. He's what? 12?
I'm a 12. Yeah. Like that's
okay.
Probably because I wore shoes that were too small for me growing up, and my toes curled over, and I turned into a 12.
You got bound.
Beautiful feet.
Had I been like a flip flop wearer back in the day, I would have been like a 16 with that second toe of mine.
Yeah. Well, the good news, like 6'5", 6'6", 6'7" is tricky once you start getting into the big and tall stores.
Exactly.
It's
And
impossible to find clothes for
I
y'all.
bring it
I just
up
don't
to get
even
another
know.
tall perspective because we got into a violent debate last week over whether or not a guy our size should ever be the 9 in a 69, like the one on top doing the planking. Do you care to weigh in here?
69 man on top?
Yeah.
It's a
I've
96.
Oh my God.
The old 96er.
I don't know where I read it, but when I was young, I read, like, I must have looked it up. So it was probably Alta Vista or something. I looked up what a 69 was, and it was some very academic thing, and it said the man was on top. And I was like, that just doesn't sound right. So I'm going to say,
right.
not only
That does not
should a
sound-
6'6" man never be the top, no man should ever be the top. And
Thank you. I am so
That's
glad to
the
hear
guy.
we are on the same page on this. I mean, in order for this to work, the person on the bottom would need to be no less than 6 feet tall. I've done the math. 90 degrees plus or minus 10
Yep.
using the average American size of 5.5 inches. Otherwise, you'd have to be in the scared cat position with the cartoon style
Yes,
arched back.
Yes.
And
Yeah, like a caterpillar.
there's
It's
nothing
weight
sexy about the caterpillar.
distribution.
Or have-
weight distribution.
You could have terrible scoliosis and get away with it.
You'd have to have some
Yeah.
serious scoliosis.
The shredder toy from Ninja Turtles would do
I know
There's a
exactly
reference.
what he's talking about.
There's a reference.
There's a reference.
You're
Can
gonna
you-
think about it.
You're gonna
next
think
time.
about it. Yeah. Next time you're in
You can make
you're
notes.
planking in the
Have an
9 position,
opportunity
you're
here.
gonna be thinking about it.
How do you feel about Quick 96?
Love the quotes and references. Pete, one of our favorite things about you are these quotes. You quote movies, you quote philosophers, religious texts. You even have your own Pete-isms, which are so great. I'd like to throw out a couple of my favorite Pete-isms, and you just quickly provide a little context or the meaning behind them. Cool?
Sure.
All right.
Yeah, you got it.
If I were you, I'd be you.
Oh, come on. That's you started right at the top. That is the gateway to compassion for me, which is hard for me. I like making fun of people. My brain is very judgmental, just sort of reflexively. So it can be tricky for me to keep my heart open, especially to difficult people in my life. And, you know, let's say you have a hard time with Trump. It's very helpful to me to say, if I were him, I'd be him. Meaning, if I was born in his body, if I had his circumstances, if I had his physiology, his biology, his genealogy, it's honestly, it took me about 44 years to come up with that one. But I was having a hard time with I think it was my dad, and I was like, what's going on? Why is he this way? And I'm like, if I were him, I'd be him. So I thank you for reminding me of that one. It
That's the
helps
good
me.
stuff, Pete.
Mhm.
How about this one?
Oh, thank you.
Follow the dream that's following you.
Yeah. Oh man, what a good host you are. I get very passionate about this. So I'll keep it brief, but like I just think if your dream is to be rich, powerful, and well known, I would just get curious about what your actual dream is, because we inherit our dreams from our culture, and we're in the West. Those are the big things: be rich, be powerful, and be famous. And a dream is so much more personal than your culture. A dream is something. It's sort of like a dream, meaning as personal as a dream you would have at night. It's deep in your unconscious. So when people are like, I want to be a stand-up, I'm like, are you sure about that? Like, and then try it. And if it grabs you, if it puts its hook in you, and then also I would add, if you're good at it, meaning if you're progressing, you don't have to be good right away, but if you're moving in the right direction, like you feel yourself a little bit better month after month. That's what I mean by the dream's also following me. Like it wants to find you, like a dream and a project and a joke or a movie or whatever, or a bakery or a business or whatever it might be. When you start following it, it follows you. It comes and heals like a dog and follows you along. So don't force something. Like you want to be Captain America in a movie. I'm like, fucking get a little bit more honest. Like what's really written on your heart. And you'll know when you start doing it it'll make you feel alive. It'll make you feel like you're in the right place, even when it sucks, because stand-up sucks. But I knew there was never any doubt. I wasn't like, should I be doing this? That's what I mean. Look for that feedback and don't just insist that your one purpose just so happens to be the one purpose that your culture values or will make you rich and famous and a consumer. Like, that's nonsense. Like, look for the one that's really written on your heart.
I like that you touch on the suffering as well, because I remember you saying once that value is a conceit, and that is so true and vital to life. And on that note, suffering and stand-up do go hand in hand. And Crashing was clearly a love letter to that pain and suffering of becoming a comedian, which was so well done in one of our favorite shows.
Well, that show can be summarized by another Pete-ism, which is, if it sucks, that's how you know you're doing it right. But I would add to that, so stand-up sucks. The first 10 years is really rough. But if it sucks, that's how you know you're doing it right. And if it sucks and you're enjoying it, that's how you know you're doing it right. Like, if it sucks and you're still showing up, that's how you know you're doing it right. You know, if it sucks so bad beyond the threshold of tolerability, it might be because it's just not the right thing for you. And there's nothing, that's a mitzvah to discover, oh, I thought it was this, it's not this. That's okay. It might just be something else.
We could really stay on those all night, but I do want to squeeze in a game. Let's get extremely personal and move on to what we call the Fast Five, where we give you 5 general questions and you answer as quickly as you can.
Okay.
Favorite cuss word?
Oh, I almost said the C word, but that's not true. I was just going for the greatest shock. You know what it is, though? It's twat. I think twat is so funny.
Ooh, yeah.
It's a fun one.
I find that women, this sounds so stupid, but like, I'm doing a movie with Judy Greer right now, and she's very funny, and we're joking around, and I just jokingly said twat to her, and she laughs so hard. And I was like, it's sort of the C word that everybody comes along for.
It's just, it's underappreciated, and it's not too vulgar, but it's still playful. It's underappreciated for sure.
It's just too silly of a word to take too seriously.
All right, you're being sold as an action figure. What 2 accessories do you come with?
Oh, that's great. Wow, I know the answer to this. This is one of those ones I'm going to be upset that
You're going to be thinking about it later.
I really am. So many of them are too small. Things like Magic Mind okay, it's a microphone. A microphone with stand.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, of course.
Is obviously the first one.
With stand.
And the other one, so lame. But it would be books. It would be A Course in Miracles. It would be Rupert Spira. It would be Eckhart Tolle. It would be like a stack of little
so great.
Books. I mean,
like a true scholar.
We've got those in our library too.
We sure do.
Course in Miracles.
Oh, do you know Rupert Spira?
Eckhart Tolle.
And
Eckhart Tolle.
We own
I
Eckhart
can't
Tolle.
believe you. I can't believe you know A Course in Miracles. Well, Eckhart is sort of teaching A Course in Miracles without saying he is. So I can't believe you know it, but that book is that's very important to me.
It's so good.
Got a lot in common, Pete.
Yeah.
All right.
Never meet anybody that knows that. I'm
really.
We have a lot to discuss.
Never. Yeah. Wow.
All right. Who was your first celebrity crush?
Oh, Tiffany
Amber Thiessen.
Tiffany Amber Thiessen, yeah.
Man, that is the answer.
That's the correct answer. Yeah.
And correct.
And my wife has a moon face. Tiffany Amber has what they call a moon face, very round face, and my wife has a moon face, and I couldn't be happier.
Wow. Right?
Yeah.
All right, favorite movie to quote?
Glengarry Glen Ross, for sure.
Oh,
Nice.
Ooh,
such
nice.
a good one.
Coffees for closers.
Yeah.
What's your favorite little town nobody's ever heard of?
My favorite little town. I love Saugerties, New York, which is about an hour. I think it's called Saugerties. It's where the Omega Institute is. It's where I saw Eckhart Tolle. But there's this little town.
What?
He was just touring, but there's this a lot of cool spiritual talks have been recorded at Omega, and it's called Saugerties, New York, and it's just a Norman Rockwell painting, and it's, you know, it's cold, and you're like, my wife and I were like, are we gonna move here? Thank God we didn't. But I was like, maybe we live in Saugerties because
Feels right.
it might not
move here.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry. It's not Saugerties. It's Rhinebeck, New York.
Rhinebeck, New York. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know where I got Saugerties. Rhinebeck.
Okay, well, good to know. Thank you for
That's
doing
true.
that, Pete. That was fun. I appreciate
Of course, my
that.
pleasure. I'm pulling up to my house.
Go
That's
give
so
her the biggest
good. Go
squeeze
give her the
ever
biggest
and have
hug.
the best Christmas.
Looking forward to seeing you on the 31st. Excited for the show.
I'm excited too, guys. I really am. Please remind me. Hey, say it's us from the Crunchy podcast. All right, guys. Merry Christmas. Thank you for having me.
Likewise. Thanks, Pete.
Thanks, Pete.
See you next
Okay.
week.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Peter. Wow. What's happening?
That was really fun. We
He's
got to talk
amazing.
about some interesting things with him. A lot of cool perspectives. So hilarious.
Excited to hang with Pete.
Yeah.
Tempe Improv on Saturday, December 30th and Sunday the 31st. Tickets available at PeteHolmes.com. Don't forget to check out his new Netflix special, I Am Not For Everyone. And of course, if you're not listening to the You Made It Weird podcast, you are missing out. That was awesome. What a fun guy. He also kind of sounds like TJ Miller when he gets excited. I don't know if anyone's ever told him
Yeah,
that.
I got a hint of that.
Got little hints of Tej. Ooh, I know what I wanted to tell you. New dream car giveaway over at 8080. In addition to the 15% off you get for using code Crunchy, every dollar you spend gets you entered in for a chance to win a brand new twin turbo R8 plus $60,000 in fun coupons. You do not want to miss out. Nor do you want to forget to check out SomethingCrunchy.com, where you'll find every episode, our links for social media, and the Almighty Crunch Store, where you'll find all kinds of crunchy gear showing that you are a proud citizen of Crunch Nation. This has been another episode of Something Crunchy, and as always,
Don't ever forget to live your crunchiest life.
And be crunchy to one another.
Please don't forget to subscribe, like, follow, and all that crunchy good shit. All episodes can be found at somethingcrunchy.com and on all podcast platforms. Thank you for listening.
Can you get drunk on 7 eggnog?